Um, so I was thinking it was really weird timing, actually, that I just wrote that book, The Wisdom of Transition, How Do You Navigate Change? Because the main thing the book is about is how do you navigate the kind of change that is thrust upon you that you didn't ask for, that you didn't want, that you didn't anticipate, and how can you navigate that with dignity and grace? So one thing I'm aware of, having started my career as a career counselor, where I worked with people who had just been fired. They'd come into my office, and I was, brand new in my 20s and ready to help them launch a target market plan and to help them create a resume with accomplishments and help them practice interviewing and even help them start to think about negotiating their first year's compensation. I realized when they would come into my office having just been fired that they couldn't hear a word I was saying. They were in shock. It was as if everything I was saying was just sliding right off them. They were in a place where they were almost frozen and numb in place. So that started me realizing that when there's a major change, like the loss of a job, or in our case, something that's affecting us all, with a sense of uncertainty and loss of control, that the external change of this kind of magnitude triggers an internal response called transition. And transition begins with an ending and ends with a new beginning, but you can't just flip a switch between the ending and the new beginning. There's terrain and territory that we all have to navigate. And in my model, I refer to that as being in between, largely outside of time and space. So the thing that I started to realize after working with clients 30 years ago, all the way up into present tense as a leadership development consultant and coach, is that when we go through a major change like the one we're going through now, you may discover that you're not on top of your game. In fact, you may discover that it's almost as if 40% of your normal bandwidth, your normal smarts, your normal ability to focus is preoccupied, gone, off the reservation, and you're attempting to operate with 60% of you. That can be deeply disconcerting, disorienting, worrisome. You might worry there's something really wrong with me. Well, where did I go? And why do I feel like I'm only 60% present? That often shows up as being forgetful, distracted, worried, drained, harder to focus, harder to plan. So I just wanted to share a story, a personal story, to illustrate what I think all of us may be going through to some degree. And that is that, oh gosh, it was, well, really probably 9-10 years ago, I'd moved to Dolores, Colorado, and I was in the middle of a really painful, hard change and transition. And I was not on top of my game at all. And I was asked to speak at ACEC, American Council of Engineering Company, at their national conference in Las Vegas. And I went, I thought we did a great job. And then when I packed up, went to the airport in Las Vegas, it was a flight, it wasn't nonstop, it was from Vegas to Phoenix to Durango. I flew to Phoenix and thought, a snack would be nice. Went to Hudson News. I was digging through my backpack for my wallet and realized, oh man, oh no, it's not here. And I thought, did I leave it on the plane? What did I do? And so I went and sat down and I called the Las Vegas Lost and Found, and they had it, thank God. And they said, no worries, we can FedEx it to you overnight and you'll have it tomorrow. Whew. I thought, thank God. What is wrong with me? I can't even believe I left my wallet on the candy counter at Hudson News in Las Vegas. Anyway, as I was pondering that, over the loudspeaker, I heard the flight to Durango has been canceled. There aren't going to be any more flights for 24 hours. And I realized with horror that I was stranded. I didn't have my driver's license. I didn't have any credit cards. I didn't have any money. I was going to have to spend the next 24 hours at the airport And again, I thought, Cheryl, what is wrong with you? And I started to experience shallow breathing, almost like a precursor to a panic attack. And I said, wait a minute, wait a minute. We know what to do when we're in situations like this. I'm a student of change and transition. And I closed my eyes. I just did some deep breathing in and out, slower and deeper than I would ordinarily, just to calm myself, gather myself back in to get a sense of greater resourcefulness. And I thought, why don't we go over to the United Ticket Counter customer service and just see if anybody else is in the same predicament, if anybody else has come up with any cool ideas. Let's just see. And so I went there, and there was a group of Ute Native Americans that were standing together. There were 4 of them, and they were saying that they had to get back to Durango for a board meeting for a casino that was being built outside of Durango. And I walked up to them, and on a lark I said, is there any chance you could rent a car that would be big enough for the 5 of us? Because I would really love to join you. And one of the men said, well, sure, we'd love to have you join us. And then I said, but I have to confess, I have no money. I have no money. I can't pay. And even worse, I need to borrow money because I have to get my car out of airport parking in Durango. I think it's going to be close to $90. He said, absolutely, I'll take care of you. And so they rented the car. He drove to an ATM. God love him. He took $200 out of his personal account, handed it to me, and said, Cheryl, you can pay me back when you get your wallet. And I just was astounded. And so I share this story because I feel like it illustrates the thing that we do to ourselves when we are in major change and transition like this, when we are not on top of our game, when it is as if 40% of us is subsumed with worry. The psyche is so worried about our safety and wanting to keep us secure in our family that we really often only have 60% that we're operating with. So on the model that I created around change and transition, you'll notice that the third phase talks about exploration, where it requires courage as you think through in a resourceful way, how might I want to deal with this new normal now? You then move into new insights when you're exploring new situations, new terrain. Often a seemingly miraculous phenomenon might occur. You may experience flashes of insight, kind of like I did. Let's go over to the United customer service and just see. Who knows? And then discovery. New discovery can either come from within or externally, but things you would never have dreamed could have been an option. And then finally, a new sense of purpose. I have to say that getting to drive with those other 4 people was a consummate delight. To have 9 whole hours to get to know them and to share, and it was almost like a unexpected field trip or road trip, and I still get Christmas cards from 2 of the people on that trip. It was really special. So bottom line, you may have found yourself going down the first part of the curve that's on the model. You may have experienced a sense of shock, which is honestly what our brain does when we can't take in the information. It's as if we're frozen and it just like, wait a minute, I can't even take this in. Often it's followed by denial, which is a mental defense function that we all use, because if we can refuse to accept the reality of a situation, we can effectively keep the change at arm's length for a while. I know I've been doing that. Then often you'll see anger, which is a perfectly natural response when your world has been turned upside down. You may notice the need to blame, the need to push away the reality, or the need to not accept the reality of what's going on. And we can get stuck in blaming others. We can get stuck in wanting to blame someone for this, because In effect, if we can temporarily blame somebody else, it's a little bit like having a hot potato that we throw to them, which gives us an opportunity to get some perspective, get our bearings, gather ourselves in until we accept the hot potato back to go, wow, I have to cope with this. This is real. It's really happening. And how can I be the very best leader that I can? And then worry, gosh, I would say that most of us are finding ourselves in a place of worry, which is normal. However, I would say that the imagination is a great ally, but when it starts overly fixating on horrible, worst case scenarios, it stops being useful. It can trigger us into the limbic brain, into excessive needs to self-protect and excessive needs to um, to go into fight, flight, freeze, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then sadness, it's perfectly normal to react with sadness or grief. I would say many people are starting to reach there where you realize, gosh, we may never be the same again. It may be different, it may be even better, but it will never be the same. So I wanted to just call attention to that because I think it's really useful to recognize if you're in any of those places. It's really normal, it's situational, and hopefully short term. I want to cover something else with you, and this is based on the research that I've done personally and also the research that I've found on coping with this level of transition when it's epic. It's it's really hard. And I just want to talk about what are some common reactions that you may be seeing. So on a physical level, you may be noticing changes in sleep patterns for yourself, family members. You may be noticing a change in your appetite. You may be noticing shallow, rapid breathing. You may experience dizziness or headaches or muscle tension or an increased heart rate, even an upset stomach. Those are just a few. From an emotional standpoint, we already talked about a lot of that, but you may be experiencing still a sense of shock or numbness. You may experience anger towards others involved, fear. When I grew up, I learned that a great acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. When we're stuck in a loop of fear, lots of times it just grows bigger and bigger and it becomes contagious, and we have to be mindful of fear because it paralyzes our ability to be resourceful and courageous when we need to. Depression, guilt. Gosh, I've heard so many people that I'm coaching now say, I feel so frustrated. Like I feel like I'm doing a marginal job at attempting to do work. I feel like I'm doing a marginal job caring for my children at home. They are obviously sensing something. I've got a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and they don't understand what's going on, but they're seemingly needing me more now than ever. They're acting out, and I just feel like I'm barely making it in any quadrant of my life. You may find yourself experiencing sadness, feeling moments of not being safe or really vulnerable, a feeling of loneliness. That's really natural, even when your house is full of people, to really feel a sense of, wow, I feel alone. Mental responses might be confusion, a difficulty concentrating, difficulty remembering events, or even the names of friends. Like, God, what's going on with me? I know my friend's name. She's been a friend for 10 years. I currently can't come up with her name. It's as if literally 40% of our bandwidth is subsumed. And in my case, difficulty with remembering to take your wallet from Hudson News. Behavioral responses. For those of you who are introverts, maybe even those of you who are extroverts, you may find yourself wanting to withdraw from others. I think that's actually okay. I think being able to withdraw from others, be with yourself, maybe take an adult time out, maybe being able to say, I am about ready to lose it. I'm on my last nerve. I need to go take a time out to just breathe gather myself back in, ground, um, self-nurture, I think that's actually a pretty good strategy. But you may find yourself having inexplicable angry outbursts, and you realize, whoa, the situation did not warrant that kind of response. Clearly, this is getting to me. Clearly, this is getting under my skin. You may find yourself crying, feeling incredibly irritable, cranky, grouchy, a decreased sense of energy, even a decreased sense of, of, of ambition, like I don't really care. Um, you may see marital relationship conflicts, an increased desire to use alcohol, or even a fear of being alone. And I would add, if I may, a fear of dying. I just was in the hospital for emergency surgery. I think most of you may already know that. And I went through very fully a near death experience. And so I personally know what it feels like to face death head on. And so if any of you are navigating that, don't feel like you're crazy. This level of change is rocking the foundation of everyone I'm coaching. I'm having conversations that I've never had with people before about what they're up against and the fears that are surfacing and spiraling up. So I wanted to let you know that. But now I want to talk about strategies that other people have shared with me that they're finding to be particularly useful at this time. One thing I would say is to be gentle with yourself. I'd like to capitalize that and bold it. Be gentle with yourself. If you find yourself not on top of your game, if you find yourself frustrated with not being able to navigate homeschooling your kids and basically needing to provide almost like a one-room schoolhouse within your house, a place where your partner is working, all of it, trying to navigate all of that. Be gentle with yourself. These are really weird times, and none of us know how to be. Try to get out in nature if you can. Care for yourself by eating well, exercising, resting when you need to, taking adult timeouts. Seek out comfortable, familiar places. That might be outside on a hiking trail. That may be on your deck. That may be in your bedroom. That may be a favorite armchair where you can surround yourself with images of people you love, favorite artwork, favorite pets, whatever you can do to imbue yourself with a sense of safety. Something that's familiar, something that's safe, that can signal to you, I'm okay. You might want to share your thoughts and feelings with those who are supportive and helpful. However, cautionary note, feel free to set boundaries with people who have not been all that helpful in the past. It's a time to be fierce about who you interact with. If there are people who are truly Debbie Downers, who pull you down, who flood you with worry and anxiety and negativity, you can't afford the luxury of a negative thought right now. You just can't. You have to keep yourself as filled up with positivity as you can. So be mindful of that. One thing that a lot of people have said over and over again that I actually have underlined and read on this sheet is that a lot of people are saying what's helping them through this is to focus on concrete, easily achievable tasks. Stuff that doesn't require a lot of creativity or a lot of deep work, things that are that you know you can nail, you can get done, you can cross it off your list. Hooray, I can do something. I've also heard a lot of people having a routine or having a schedule really helps. So keep that in mind. I bet you're going to agree that that's helped you too. And then if you can communicate to your partner or to your loved ones or to your friends how best to respond to you. If you know that you need adult timeouts and you need breaks throughout the day, then if you can structure those, if you're sharing a home with a partner or a significant other or a friend or a roommate, if you can orchestrate how you want to navigate the day to day and say, what I've learned about myself is I need 3 adult timeouts. If I could just have 20 minutes all on my own to read a book or just to listen to my favorite music or to quiet my thinking and gather myself in, then set that up. Find a way to set up a framework so you're not just a public utility, endlessly giving to others over and over again. You also have to give to yourself, because if you drain your own tank, you're going to be running on fumes. Uh, Maybe this sounds selfish to you, but you have to take impeccable care of yourself right now. You just do, so that you have something to give to your family, to the teams that you support. I've heard a lot of people say if I can just get my face in the sun for 10 minutes, oh, I can drink in the vitamin D, that's wonderful. If I can take quiet time for meditation. Somebody said to me yesterday, just spending time playing the guitar. Um, Writing, I know a lot of you have really found a lot of joy from journaling and writing. That's other techniques. One person even said motorcycles. If I can just get out with the breeze and the open air on my face, it allows me to remember that life is good and there's lots to be grateful for. So the bottom line is to be gentle with yourself, to recognize there's nothing wrong with you. I promise, if you feel like you're not on top of your game, join the club. Neither do I. It's situational. Together we will make it to the new beginning. We don't know yet what that'll look like, but we're not alone. So I just want to share one final thing with you, and that is the research that's been done on the brain and emotional intelligence. So you'll remember that emotional intelligence is made up of 4 quadrants: self-awareness, self-regulation, and then being aware of others and being aware of how to navigate relationships with them based upon what they need and who they are. Well, what I'm aware of is that listening to the news is a challenge for all of us. It's like, where is the balance from being informed to overwhelmed? How can we navigate that so we aren't constantly triggered? We aren't constantly triggered to where our brain perceives a threat and it launches us into fight, flight, or freeze. It moves us back into the limbic brain where we're scanning the landscape for the next threat, the next fearful thing that might show up. When we're stuck in the limbic brain, that's the hoarding behavior that we're seeing amongst others, and maybe even in ourselves. It's we have friends who are taking vast chunks of money out of their savings because of a feeling of, oh my gosh, I need to be prepared. Who knows what's going to happen? That's actually when people are in the limbic brain. When you're in the brain of, I need to protect me and mine, the tribe. And what happens is the cognitive brain, the front cortex shuts down. And all of our normal 98% high functioning that we do on our jobs, our ability to be resourceful, our ability to solve problems, our ability to be altruistic, noble, and good, it shuts down and we're just throbbing with fear, which is of course appropriate if we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, but it's not as appropriate now. And so whatever you can do to move yourself out of fear back into, well, love. Love is the opposite of fear. To be able to find yourself being resourceful and to be able to think about others in a caring kind of way. I would say that those of us who are leaders, that's a challenge we have. It's a dichotomy of wanting to care for family, of course, but it's also wanting to bring our very best self to the table that we can. And I have a good friend who is a trauma therapist, and she shared with me the other day that the flip side of trauma, which is what I'd say we're all going through, the flip side of trauma is altruism. Isn't that beautiful? That's when the self is trying to find wholeness again. And we have these transcendent experiences of, I'm okay, no matter what. I can bring my very best self to this no matter what. I'm okay. And I won't abandon myself. I won't abandon my family. All will be well, no matter what. And then comes a time for extraordinary resilience and resourcefulness. It becomes a time of being able to look at things in a whole new way. It allows us to channel our energy towards being creative, innovative, and amazing. And it allows us to focus on what we can control. So I'd love to hear from you now. I'd love to hear what you're doing that you would say have been strategies for resourcefulness. What are the things that you've been doing to calm the fear and to feel centered and grounded and like you can be your very best self? So I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to turn off my mic, and whoever would like to share, I'd love to hear from you.